Yeah, these are the slide lines.
Okay, guys, can get started. Okay, so again, I'm Chiavi. A little bit about myself. I'm third year automation, and I did my last co-op last summer, and on my McMaster mechatronic department. So I developed a Python software for the researchers to control an instrument to send out voltage and current signal. So I'd like to let you guys know Python is really powerful and can be used in many industrials. And without further ado, let's dive into our first slides. So I'm gonna start with the variable and data types review. Okay, this one's off anyway. So there are some common data types in Python, like the integer, floating point, and string and bool. So just a quick review. Integer is the default data type for the whole number, like 1, 2, 3. And floating point like 3.14, they are the real number. And string are in comma, they are in quotation. Those are sequence of characters, so we can put a word or a sentence in as a string. And for Boolean, they are just true or false. Or if you like, you can use 1 or 0 to represent true or false. They are pretty much interchangeable. So if we have a if statement is true, you can say if 1. Okay, moving on. We have some examples, more example of the data type. So at line 2, we declare a variable x is equal to 10 minus 6, which is 4, and y is BDSC is a string variable, and z is 3.14 is a real type variable. Then I'm printing out. You can see that is the first line of the output. And I assign the y into a new variable, which is high plus the original value of y. That means we can use a plus sign plus operator to easily connect two strings together. That's a pretty cool feature and handy feature of Python. And we can use that a lot. And on line 9, I declare a variable a and I get a user input a building function input bracket. So that's a building function to take user input as a string. So it may not that obvious, but this is a string type variable, but you can use to check the type of a variable, you can use a type function. So you can type a to check, it will return the string type. And if I type apple, it will say a is apple. All right. And we have seen the operator plus signs, so pretty obvious that the addition sign and minus the subtraction and multiplication is the start. And the following 3 are can be tricky. The student can get lost on those 3 operator size. They are division, modulus, and floor division. So the division is just like regular division. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. And somebody asks, can we get access to the video after the meeting? Yes, we are recording the whole section. All right, so division is the regular division, okay? And the modulus taking the remainder of the result. So like the last example, 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. If we do modular, 5 modular 2, that will get 0.5. So the whole number part of 2 is gone. And the floor division is pretty much the opposite of the modulus. So 5 floor division 2 gonna be 2. So again, 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. 5 modulo 2 is 0.5, and 5 floor division 2 is 2. And finally, we have the power. So explanation 2 to the power 3. You can use double star to represent that. All right. Hope that's clear. And some small example. So first 2 lines, I declare the variable x, y, z, and a, b. You can see I use a slightly different method to declare those variables. I declare multiple variables at one line. You can do that and separate by semicolon. And you can also use a comma to declare to assign two values at the same time. So that makes save some space if you like that way. And I printed them out 5 to 1, 12, 6. So some example here, z times 2, which is 3 times 2, that will give you 6. And 3 to the power of 2, that will be 9, right? And following that is small questions. Y times B equals to A. What will be the result of that? Think about that, maybe 10 seconds. Y times B equals to A. What will be the result to run that line? I hope you guys have the, oh, yep, sure. Yeah, that's right, true. Y is 2 and B is 6. 2 times 6 is 12, which is exactly the value of A, and it will return true. Okay, and we're moving on. Oh, sorry. Back to, yeah. And X divided by Y, and we have seen that example like in the previous slide. So 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. 5 floor divided by 2 is 2, and 5 modulo 2 is 0.5. And finally, there's an example of assignment operator is plus equal. So x plus equal to z means x equal to x plus z. They are equivalent. So if you print the value of x, will be the result. Other small questions. After we do x plus equal to 2, what will be the result of x? The result will be, somebody said in the chat, yeah, that's right, it's A. Why? Because x original value is 5, and 5 plus the value of z, which is 3, 5 plus 3 will give you A. So A is the new value of the x value. So we've seen some multiple data types, and sometimes we want to convert data types between each other. And this is a very common technique when you actually do the programming, doing like some application or software, and you want to be aware of some small detail when you do data conversion. So let's take a look at this example. So first, I define x as a string. So in that string is 1111 for ones. And after that, I convert that into an integer type using an int function. It's a built-in function. So int x will give you the integer type of 1111. And after that, we are still using the int built-in function, but this time I have another parameter. So rather than int x, now it's int x comma 2. So the 2 means if the Python will treat that original value of x as a binary number and try to convert that into a decimal integer. So if you can recall how to do the calculation between binary and decimal, you will get 15. So to the power of 0 plus to the power of 1 plus to the power of 2 plus to the power of 3, that will be 15. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, and the float function is similar to the int function, but Python will convert that into floating point and indicate as a 0 at the end of the number. So compare with the last line of the output to the first line of the output, you will see the first line is there's no 0 there, so that's an integer, and the last one is 0, so that represents a real type variable. Okay, moving on. So we have seen some built-in function like those int function, float, string to convert between data type, or like the user to input. They are built-in functions. But if you want to declare your own function, then we can use df keyword to declare our own function. And that's pretty simple. Function is just a block of code that can run only once and only when you call the function. It will not run by itself unless you call it. So we can pass some parameter into a function like we have seen in the built-in functions integer converting. We pass the value x into the integer, converter. So that's a parameter. The x is called parameter. And if you want to return some value at the end of the function, we can use the return keyword. Following is the example. So the way I like to write the code is to ignore the function. So ignore the function part first and start with the main part. So I start with the variable equal to 2. So that's a variable, integer variable. And after that, there's a function call, and the result of the function call is assigned to the variable b. And I look at the function call is the function name is called high function. And looking back to find high function, and there is high function and it accepts one parameter. So inside the high function, we have the function block. The function block is the content of the function. So in this case, they are the a equals to x plus 5, also return a. They are the function blocks. So if we pass the value of 2 into the high function, and a will equal to x plus 5, which means a equal to 2 plus 5, then the result will be 7, right? And then we return the number 7 back to b. I hope that makes sense. Go back to that slide. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, and if we print the value of b, then that will be 7, right? Any questions on this example or anything? I hope that's a little review of the function and data type conversion. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
What's the difference between the
So the argument is that if you go back to the previous slide, so they are pretty similar terms and can be used interchangeably in some programming language. For Python, the argument is the value you declare in the function call. So it's the var in this case, and the parameter is inside the function header. So it's the x. It's a good practice to differentiate the name. So it's good practice to have different name of the parameter and the argument. So in this case, I named the parameter as x and argument as var. So if you want to name the x as a var, so you can go ahead and do that, but it's a good practice to separate, like to have a different name between those values. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. One. If there's no questions, then I will hand the slide to Tamara and we'll look some while loop and for loop.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Tamara. I'm in my second year of mechatronics engineering. So to start off, loops or lists are able to organize more than one piece of data in a variable. An important thing to remember is that Python uses zero indexing, which means the index of the first element is 0. So for example, if you printed my list at index 2, it would give you C because it starts at 0, 1, 2. You can also access sublists, which is just like a smaller list within a list by slicing. And you can put in 2 numbers. So the first number is inclusive, meaning it includes the element that the index is at, while the second number is exclusive, meaning it takes the element before that index. So for example, if you put 1 and 3, it would take B because B is at index 1. And at index 3, it's D, except the second one is exclusive, meaning it will only take C. So that's sort of a useful little tip. Moving on, there are many lists and string methods. You guys can sort of read through them. There's append, which adds an item at the end of the list. Insert, which adds an item sort of at the index you specify. There's pop, which just removes an element and returns, or no, it returns the element at index n and removes it from the list. And then there's remove, which only removes the first instance of the object, meaning if there's more than 2 copies, it would only remove the first one. And then there's split, which basically separates strings into 2 substrings. And if you put a character in this little space, it would sort of separate it at that like at that section. And then there's join, which it may be a little bit confusing, but it's basically if you had a list of strings, you would be able to join all of them together into a singular string, except you would have to sort of add a character here. So it would sort of join it together with that character in between. So for example, if you had A, B, C in the list and you put a character here, like and, it would say A and B and C. And then there's strip, which is also a little bit confusing, but basically it trims the string in a way so that it takes away all the trailing and leading characters. So for example, if you put strip and you put a comma and your string happened to have commas at the end or the beginning of the string, it would sort of strip that away. And then there's loops, which it basically just repeats a specific block of code that's contained, and it requires conditions that determines when the loop stops. Or if you want a loop that goes on forever, like an infinite loop, you can do that, but that's not really recommended. Usually, if you want to iterate through a list, you can write for A in and then your list name. So the A over here is, you can put anything in here, like you can put B, you can put C, you can put apple. It's just like a variable name. Or you can use the range function. And the range function sort of has a lot of different uses. You can put one number in it. And if you put one number in it, it will only iterate through that number. So if you put 4, it'll iterate 4 times. If you put 3, it'll go through it 3 times. Or you can put 3 numbers in. So the first one will be the starting value. The second one will be the ending value. And the third number will be the increment value. So for example, if you put 0, 4, 1, it'll start at 0, it'll end at 4, and it'll increment by 1. And then you can also iterate through strings, as you can see here. It's basically the same as this one here. It's just through a string. And all of these examples should give you the same output, A, B, C, D. So. And then there's Booleans. As mentioned in the previous slides, there's only 2 possible values, which is true or false. And you can also use comparison operators or logical operators to compare values, expressions, variables, basically anything you want. So here's some comparison operators. I'm sure all of you guys have seen this before, so I won't be going into them. There are also logical operators, which is basically and, or, and not. And here's just a little example. So if X is smaller than Y, it'll print this. And over here, it is smaller than Y, so this will be printed. And then over here, it says if X is smaller than Y and if Y is smaller than Z, so both of them have to be true for this print, which they are. Or you can use the or, so only one of them has to be true for anything to print. And then there's the not, so basically it would print if the condition is false. And then there's if statements. So it basically checks if the contained code is true or false. If it's true, the block of code will be executed. If it's false, it's basically skipped over. You can put an else statement at the end of the if statement that will execute only if the first if statement is false. And then you can do more complicated things like elif statements, which will execute if the first if statement is false. So yeah, I know I said if a lot of times, but so this is just a small like interactive example. If anyone wants to answer what you think will happen if this is executed, I'll give you guys like 10 seconds. Yeah. Sorry? The second one, yeah. So the second one will happen only because X is smaller than 2. So it checks this one, it's false. So it moves on to this one. And it's true, so this does happen. But if both of these were false, only the else would be printed. And then, so while loops will repeat the contained block of code until the condition is true. This is useful for when you don't have a set amount of iterations in mind. So the difference between while loops and for loops is that they work basically they perform the same function, except for loops are used when you know how many times you want to iterate through it, right? But while loops will be used when you don't know how many times you want to iterate through it. So that's just a small little difference. And then you can use the break command that exits the loop at any moment. So this is useful if I'll get into that later, but basically it just exits the loop and none of the statements after that will be executed. And this is just a small example of a while loop. So it just says, so you have to initialize the variable, obviously the counter. And then it says, while I is smaller than 4, you're going to print whatever index. And then you just increment this until it reaches 4 and it stops. But if you just wanted to iterate through the list 2 times, and for some reason you want to use the while loop with a 4 counter, you can break it when I is equal to 2. So it would only iterate this many times. And that should be all. If anyone has any questions. Oh.
Is it possible to remove items from the list?
So like at each iteration you want to remove it?
Yeah.
Well, in Python the lists are dynamic, so I feel like you could if you wrote like very difficult code. I think because you set the counter at the beginning, if you did that, you might end up with an error. But if you want to try, you can try. I don't have an exact answer. But yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, so we're gonna take a 30-minute break now. Again, please feel free to like ask any more questions. Right? So whenever you have any questions, like
Yeah. I'm busy still working on
yeah.
I should just let me know.
Yeah.
Should open. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be taking a 30-minute break. We'll be back soon. We'll be getting started now for the next half of the event.
Yeah, awesome. Put it on. I'd like to slides.
With the slide.
Yeah.
Side by side.
Wait, did you want to do some like code
Yeah.
first? I can just. I guess.
Not share it side by side. I think it's
Okay, I can.
like
oh,
give us
just-
on the side.
I think this, nah, I feel like I
Wait.
prefer just the slides and.
Just do like twist.
Yeah. So like I have like a separate thing for mine, I think, for filing, like separate examples. I was gonna use them. And then have the practice problem. After the slide.
Yeah, just do the slide, just so they know it's up, and then do the reflector. And when you guys finish the actual plot, just go.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it is. Good point. Ours was, right?
We're not sure. So just
I'm
like.
not sure. Maybe it's half.
There was.
So wait, you can just share the. Very good.
Like, let's get started. Yeah. Okay.
All right, everyone, we're gonna get started. We're gonna get started now, good? We're gonna get started. So, everyone, we're gonna get started. We're gonna get started. You can slide down. Yeah. So just to introduce myself, my name is Hussein. I'm in second year software engineering. And yeah, I'm gonna go through some of the file input and output for your exam. So to start, we have the file input and output. So we can read data from files and also write data to files in Python, as you probably know. The process involves opening the file, then collecting the data, then modifying the data in some way, and then closing the file at the end. You gotta make sure you do that. So the next one. So this is one way you can open the file. The file has to be open before you want to read or write to it or from it. You gotta make sure, as a note, you gotta make sure the file is in the same folder as the Jupyter program that you are running. That's something you gotta make sure. So as you can see, you have the 4 parts of opening the file. We have the variable that you have you use throughout your Python program. It's just I call it file var here. And then you use the open keyword to actually open your file. You have your file name, which is gonna be in quotation marks. And you gotta make sure it's the exact name of the file. And then we have the mode, which is kind of like what you want to do with the file once you open it. We'll get into it. Below we have an example, but afterwards we're gonna go through the example together. Like we're gonna code along in Jupyter, since you guys have your laptops. So yeah, you go on next slide. This is another way to open the file. You can use the with as keyword. And so if you open it this way, there's no need to close the file because all your commands are going to be within the block. As you can see in the example, there's like the 3 dots. That's basically where you put your commands to modify the file. And again, you can see it's very similar to the last way of opening the file. You have the with, and then open file name, mode, and then as, and then the file variable that you use. And then yeah, the lines for modifying the files would go like tabbed over within kind of like the block of the with as keyword. So yeah, this one. Okay, next we have the mode. So as you can see, there are 5 different modes. Basically, a mode is just what you want to indicates what you want to do with the file. So just to go through it, you have the reading mode, which is just R, indicated by an R, and it's just read only. You have the writing, which is just W, which is writing only, And one thing to know about writing is that it overwrites any file that was previously made. So like if you have a file with the exact same name and you open it with W, then it's just gonna overwrite anything that was in it before, and it'll write whatever you have. And then next we have the appending. This appends to the file, so adds to the file at the end of the file, and it just creates a new file if it doesn't exist. We have reading and writing, which is indicated by R plus or W plus. You can use both. I don't think there's any difference. And again, it both reads and allows you to both read and write on the file. And lastly, we have reading and appending, which is just A plus, and yeah, you can read and append. Okay, this is our first sort of or reading from files. So first we have the given text file. Again, we are gonna go through it together, so you can, I guess if you really want, you can take note of it, but we're gonna go through it together. So there's three different ways to read, or three different things you can do while reading from the file. You can use the .read method, .read line, or .read lines. And so if you use .read, it basically just reads the entire file and it stores it in, it returns the content of the file as a string, so one string to that file. If you use .read line, it has, it just reads and returns just the single line of the file, or the next line. And then read lines reads the entire file and returns a list, which with each of the elements in the list as one line of the file. So yeah, again, we'll do examples of these so it makes more sense, but yeah. Next, we have writing to files. There are two main methods you use when you're writing to files. You use .write or write lines, .write lines. Normally you just use .write though. You don't really focus on .write lines. Again, .write just writes the string to the file. .write lines writes the list of strings to the file. Again, don't need to worry about it. And so we have a little question here for you guys. So on the right, as you can see, we are given the text file on the top. It just contains, I don't know, pizza toppings. And then we have the code. So just to go through it, first we open the file in write mode, and then we write a bunch of pizza toppings. So we write onions, olives, and chicken to the file that we open. And then lastly, we close the file. So does anyone know how the text file would be changed? Anyone have any ideas? Yeah.
Whatever existed already with there.
Exactly, yeah. So if you go to the next slide, as you said, basically everything that's already in there, so all the previous toppings are just removed, and whatever you're writing, so onions, black olives, chicken, they're added to the file. So yeah, next slide. One thing you can do is you can read from a file with a for loop. So again, you can loop through each line of the file with a for loop. As you can see on the right, we have an example of this. So first I create a toppings list, which is just an empty list. And then after I open the file with pizza file variable, and then in a for loop, I do for line in pizza file. And then we have another new variable called topping, which is just a placeholder variable. It collects each line and it strips off the \n. And basically what this \n is a character that indicates a new line after each of the toppings in the file. When we do the example together, you kind of see what I mean. So basically the \n indicates that after you write the topping, go to the next line. And then after we append the topping to the toppings list that we created earlier in the let's start at the start of the file. And then after the for loop, we close the file. Gotta make sure to do that. And then lastly, we print the toppings list, the variable that I made. And as you can see, it would print the three toppings that are in the file. So yeah. And lastly, or not lastly, but we have also appending to a file with the for loop. So again, you can use the for loop to go through each line of the file. And so again, we have a little example here. You have the given text file at the top, and then you have the code block. And again, just to go through it, I have the toppings list with actual toppings already in it. And then open the file with the open keyword, and then we open it in append mode. And so afterwards, in a for loop, I go through each of the toppings in the list that we created. And so in the for loop, I actually write each of the toppings to the text file. And then afterwards, I close the file. So does anyone know how the text file will be changed after this code is implemented? And that. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So if you go next slide. So just as you said, it will display all seven toppings because we opened it in append mode. So we're adding to the file, we're not overwriting anything. So yeah, next slide. And lastly, we have closing the file. You got to make sure, very important, to close the file with the close method. And what it does, it basically saves the changes made. And if a file isn't closed, sometimes I think depending on like the Python version or whatever, through what's called garbage collection, it closes it automatically. But other times it doesn't close automatically. So you basically just got to make sure it's good practice to just use the close method to close your file at the end of the program. And so yeah, sometimes like your program does get corrupt if you don't close it. And oh yeah, and then sorry, go back. If you open the file with the with as keyword again, you don't need to close it because it's all tabbed over. So yeah. Any questions? Wait, just to solidify what we just went through though, we are gonna like code along through it as well. So you can like try to open, I guess just have your Jupyter notebook open. You don't actually have to have a program ready yet. We'll go through like making the program and everything together. So yeah, I'm gonna show
You want to pull up your?
yeah, but I think
On here?
yeah,
Yeah.
to show them.
Please, am I sorry?
No, I can no, I'll give you mine. Oh, sure.
One chair.
Same thing.
Quickly.
Thanks. Cool. Great. Yeah. Create a folder. Yeah, right. Yeah, but I have to share. Yeah, can you share it? Actually, mine has already like.
Why did you just share your screen?
Oh, and you watch my screen? Wait.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's fine. When you share.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I looked at I just haven't tried.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And you can say.
yeah.
Yeah, but to be honest,
You okay?
Huh? Not well. Like I think.
Okay, then.
This is like an actual. I don't know. I don't know. No, I'm gonna look up. Or is it? Just stay off this.
Can I turn the camera? Or do you want to share? Hey.
Let me share my.
I think this audio is on. It's if you don't share your face off.
Wait, see.
Yeah.
Put it on the-
They're not.
There were- Okay.
Get started. So as you can see here, I have the Jupyter notebook open. Again, you can code along as or follow along. So first, we want to make the text file that we're actually going to be using throughout our Python program. So in Jupyter, you can just go under new text file. And then as you can see here, we have an open blank text file just called untitled.txt. And so first, we're going to add some pizza toppings. So just as an example, we can add what we had in the slides. So we have mushroom. Again, feel free to like add your own like stuff or make your own text file if you want. But this is just as an example. So we have mushroom, pepperoni, bean peppers. Yeah.
How'd you make the text file?
So basically, there's a question that just came in. How did I make the text file? So again, just to show everyone, in the Jupyter notebook, like menu kind of thing, just go under new right here, and then text file, and then that should prompt you to this page. which is just the text file page. And then again, just to add some toppings, we have mushroom, pepperoni, green peppers, and olives. So yeah, so this could do for our text file initially. Again, we are gonna add more toppings later on. And we can just give it a unique name. So it can just be like pizza toppings. .txt. And again, just how I did that, I literally just clicked on the name that was untitled txt. I just click on it and then change it to file name and press OK. And okay, that's good enough. So if we go back to our menu screen, we can create the Jupyter notebook file with it, which is going to be the main file we're going to modify our actual text file in. So again, go to new, and then you can choose, it shouldn't really matter, you can choose any of these three. I'll just go with Python 3 just because it's newer. And then that should bring you here, which is our new Jupyter notebook file. You guys probably know how to do this from before, but yeah. So yeah, just to get us started, the first thing we learned was how to open a file. And as I said, there were two different ways to open it. You can just use the normal file variable equals open keyword, and then file name, and then mode. You can just open it with that. So again, we had pizza file, or pizza var, sorry. Doesn't really matter. You could just pizza file equals. And then again, we have the open keyword. And then in the brackets, you got to put the name of the file and the mode you want to open it in. So, and you put it in quotation marks. So we have open and then pizza toppings.txt, because this is what we named our file. We named it pizza toppings.txt. And then the other thing you want to put is the mode. You also got to put that in quotation marks as well. So we can just open it in read mode for now. And yeah, that'll do. So that's one way to open the file. As I mentioned before, there's a second way to open the file. Again, the way I just created a new block here was just I pressed plus. I'm sure you guys probably don't know how to do it. So the second way to open the file that I showed was using the with as keywords. So if you type in with, and then I believe it was, yeah, open, similar to what we did here. To be honest, we can probably just copy and paste it. Paste it here. So again, we have the with and then open, and then the name of the file, and then the mode. And then after with comes as, and then use the variable name. So we just have pizza file. And then once you put the semicolon and you press enter or go to the next line, your cursor should in fact already be tabbed over. And that signifies that it's like in its own separate block type of thing. And so from here on, what you do is you put any of your commands that you want to run or run to modify the file. So we are gonna, for practice, just use the first way of opening the file. So we can just comment this off. Again, comments with the hashtag, so Control or Shift 3. And yeah, so we'll go from there. So the second thing I went over is the three different ways to read a file. If you recall, we have the .read method, .read lines method, and .read line method. So just to show the first way, we can declare a read variable. So just call it read1. This is the first way we're reading. I can have that equal pizza file.read. Okay, pizza file.read. And again, what this would return, if you recall, is the entire file as one string variable. So just to prove that, we can print out our first way of reading, and we can run it. So first, again, you want to make sure you run the open file block, because you want to open the file. So you run that. And then now we want to run the first method of reading. So if you run that, ooh, Well, at least we have the error here. Anyone find the error? It's not safe. Yeah, let's see. I think it's autosave. I guess. Yeah. It should be autosave. I can try saving it. I think I.
Oh, I think he means for text file.
Oh, okay. I should also. Okay. That should be hard. Let me try saving this. Openings.
Is it because they're in different lines?
Different like blocks.
Yeah, understand.
Yeah. Hmm. You know this app?
Somebody suggested clear.
Oh, maybe yeah. Fine.
Yeah.
I'll go check right now.
Yeah.
And then just restart and clear out.
What the? Yeah, it should automatically. I can try saving it, but I don't. Oh yeah, like. Okay, okay, yeah, you guys are right. So yeah, I didn't save the actual text file. Yeah. So all is wrong. Okay, so just to bring it back, my mistake was I didn't actually save the text file after I created it. So just to show you guys kind of what I did to solve it, I went back to the text file that we created and I just did Control S. I'm sure you can also do file save. And you can see it saved a few seconds ago. And then if you go back to the Jupyter Notebook file and we run the pizza file to open it, and then we run the code to read it and print it, your content of the file should be shown. So yeah, that's the first way. The second way to read the file is using the read line. So again, type it up. Okay. So we have the read line. You gotta make sure you rerun this first line to open the file again, because if you try to do a read line and print out the read two, it's gonna be empty. And the reason for this is because it's trying to read after what was already like run before. So if you reopen it, so run the open file again, and then print out read two, you should get the first line of the file back. And the third way to, just to quickly go over it, the third way to read is using the read lines. As shown here. And so we can have a variable called read3. And then if we print read3, again, you want to make sure you run the open file again. And then if we print this read 3, again, we use read lines. As you can see, it prints a list of all the elements in the file, in the text file, with each element in the list as one line of the file. And yeah, as you can see here as well, it also has the \n. And again, as I mentioned before, the \n is just indicating that there's a new line after this element in the file. So yeah. Are there any questions? Questions? Reading? Nope. Okay. So after this, we have writing. So we can have, if we open the file again, but this time, if we open the file in write mode. Oh, that's true. Okay. Let me just go over writing. So yeah, if we open the file in write mode this time, this similar to the example that I showed before, with like asking you guys what would happen. So again, if we open it in write mode and then we do pizza file.write, and we write our own new topping into the file, we could include, I don't know, onions, and then you want to include the \n here to go to the next line. Zoom in. Oh, okay. Hope this is better. So again, here we want to write different toppings into the file. So we're writing onions, you can just copy paste here, change this to, I don't know, black olives, and then change it to chicken. And then one thing you want to make sure you want to do, since we opened it in this mode, you want to make sure you close the file. So you do pizza file dot close. And yeah, so again, here we're opening the file in write mode. So we're going to overwrite any of the existing content that's already in the file. So all the other toppings. And then we write 3 different new toppings, and then we close the file. And so if you run this, we didn't actually print any thing from the file. So after we close it, we just print out the, or I guess we can, yeah, we can print out the content of the file before we close it. And read. So again, okay, just as for this example, we can change it to W+, just so we can read and write to the file. So again, we're opening the file in W+, so we're reading and writing. We're writing 3 different new toppings, and then we print the contents of the file, and then we close the file. If we run this. We gotta see.
No, I know. Oh, now this is from.
It's not. Yeah, R plus. Check again. Maybe read. All right, to bring it back, everyone. So another way you can read. If I want to be quiet for 1 second. So another way to read the lines or print, as we went over, was using the read lines method. And so here we use the read lines. I don't know why read wasn't working, to be honest. But yeah, we use read lines, and as you can see, printed out a list of each element of the file or each line of the file as an element of this. So yeah, it was a bit modified than what I originally had planned, but we are running low on time. And we do want to start going over the practice problems. As we are running low on time, is there a preference of like which problem you'd like us to go through with you guys? Does anyone like want a specific question? Yeah.
Are all of these relevant?
Yeah, we believe so, as most of this content was taken from content that was covered in class. So we believe, yeah, most of these should be covered. If there's no preference, I guess we can just go through start. So yeah, for the first question, I'm gonna have Tamara read it out.
Yeah.
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The answer key is right here.
Okay.
Oh, put it up.
If you
Okay. Put it up here.
including your permission.
Okay, so I'm sure. Yeah, you can share. Okay.
Yeah. So.
You want to see the answer?
We don't have to go.
Yeah. Right there.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Solution. Oh, like the. We'll post everything.
Okay, just to bring it back, everyone.
We're starting practice.
Okay.
So if you want to see how it's coded out, we'll do a demo right now. But everything will be posted afterwards. So you guys have all the marks.
Okay, so we're just going over question number 1. So we do have to write a function for this. So basically we're calling it problem 1, and we're taking in parameters balance, transaction, and credit score. And then I don't know if you guys had time to go over the actual like problem set, but basically for this problem we have to return the balance of an account. So if the credit score is under 300, yeah. So to begin, we want to check if the credit score is under 300, and we can just do this using a comparison operator. And then so if it is under 300, we want to set x as 20 and y as 5. And if you guys read the question, you know that this is like what we multiply, like the amount of transactions by. And then if it's not under 300, we want to set x equal to 10 and y equal to 2. And now we want to check if the
Wait, who's this?
balance is under
Oh, it's Quinn's, okay, yeah.
200. And from the question, we know that if the question, or if the balance is under 2,500, we want to deduct some money from their account. So if it is under 2,500,
Diesel, we should watch this later on.
whatever amount.
We're recording, like, the problem.
Anyways, we just want to subtract the amount from the balance. And then we also want to sort of deduct an amount of money from their account if the transactions are less than 2 or over 10. So we can just do that using an if statement and logical operators. So I'm just gonna do that really quick.
Hello?
Yeah, over 10. And then we want to just subtract y times. We want to subtract y times the amount of transactions from the account. And then we want to check again if the balance, we want to make sure that the balance is not negative. Because if it is, we don't really see a point of like returning the balance. We just want to return that your balance is negative. But if it's not, negative. Okay. If it's not negative, we just want to return the balance. And I think, oh no, I just,
Here's the final one. This is one. Yeah.
Okay, so we just have to define something in the main. And it should. So this is the test case.
We can quiet down a bit. We're going through the first question, so.
Okay, so this is the test case. If you guys want to plug it into your code and see if it works. We will be posting the rest of the test cases. I think they probably are already posted. Yeah.
Are there any questions?
Was anyone able to try it out beforehand, before you came into the session?
Was there a question?
What was your error?
Just trying to like.
It's okay to just explain what you did in the solutions.
You're good.
Yeah, don't code it out. It's fine. Yeah, okay. And just uncomment the test case and then try this. Just uncomment the test case.
Yeah, we know it.
Then just don't like. Right?
Yeah. Like where?
It will be posted, like the answer key will be posted. Yeah, they'll be
Like,
they'll be emailed to you if you are. Just go through the solution.
You good?
Yeah, just share that.
You want to share your screen?
Yes, we will be releasing everything. But right now, we already have pre-written solutions for the practice problem,
Yeah,
so
we
now
can
we'll
go
just
through
be going through it, just because we're a little bit short on.
Okay. Yeah. There's no. No. Okay.
And most people.
Great. So as you can see
I
here,
have a quick
for the
question.
second question, we are asked to write a
Hello?
function that determines the largest number written using each one of the given digits only once. And so as a sample answer, again, you might have came up with your own answer that might have worked. We have we define the function right here. So first we have a string variable for the biggest number, and we just initialize that to empty. Again, in Python, when you initialize a variable, it's not actually given like a value just yet, but like it's basically you don't have to initialize the actual variable as a type. But here I'm we're indicating that we want to use it as a string. So we go through each line of, so again, in the function, we're giving a number list that we want to go through. So in a for loop, we go through the length of the list. And so we have a variable called largest. We arbitrarily set that to the first element in the list. And then in a for loop, we go through each element in the actual list again. And we check if the number is greater than the current value set to largest. And if this is the case, then we set the largest equal to the actual number that we're checking. And then outside of the for loop, we have the largest digit. And we set this variable to be the list, but we want to remove the actual largest value, right? So we get the list, we get the index of the largest digit, basically. So again, here we use numlist.pop, and what this does is removes the actual variable, it removes the actual element in the list, and it returns that. So what do we want to pop exactly? That's what this is. So we go through the list and we go to the index of what is currently set to the largest digit. And we remove that using pop, and we collect that in the largest digit variable. And then outside of the for loop, once it's done, we also add the number to the string num list that we created. And then, yeah, basically that is what we return. And one last thing, we return an integer value of the string biggest number using the int casting. And so basically what that does, it just converts it from a string to an integer. And yeah, so if we input, for example, this is one of the test cases, 6161, and we run it. So as you can see, the biggest number is 6611. If you can see another test case. Another test case, you copy paste it. Another test case was having these five numbers, 52793. And if you run that as well, as you can see, the biggest number is 97532. So yeah. You want to look at the third one, or is it just...
What's the first one? I feel like it's number 2.
I think it was number 2.
Do the fifth.
This one? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the last one. The last one, we're gonna do number 5 because the matrix mission. And then we'll wrap it.
I don't know.
Is it on Google Drive?
Wait.
So they said.
Yeah.
Is it still RCQ? The RCQ. Should I go? I guess.
That's okay.
On Discord? Okay. Hi guys, everyone, sorry, just a quick question thing. We are gonna be wrapping up just because we're out of time, but we will be posting the solutions on Discord as well as sending them through to everyone through email. So if you want the Jupyter notebook with all the solutions, check on the GDSC Discord or through your email if you RSVP. Also, there will be a post-event survey that you will be getting. We will link the Discord in the Zoom chat, but there will be a post-event survey sent to you through email. So if you guys can, please fill it out just so we can improve all our events in the future. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
You're also entering the chance to win a raffle for a gift card, so highly recommend.
Great. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for
Have a
coming.
good day.
Can we get the Discord link?
Yeah, good luck.
Yo. Hello. Yo, I'm trying to get the link to the Discord station. Does anyone have the link? Bro, shut up, bro. Yo. Does anyone have the link? Bro, shut up. Thank you, bro. That was my dog. Sorry about that, guy. Shut up, bro. Shut up.